Hi guys, Irina here. I'm doing my Facebook Live challenge. I took a little break, but I'm back. And today I want to talk about anger. So I put day 8, so 8 out of my 30 Facebook Lives. And I want to talk about anger today because I think it's the most needed and useful thing to work with. And in my practice with my clients, I see that almost everybody struggles with it. So anger is it's a little like taboo topic. It's something we usually don't want to feel because nobody wants to be angry. Nobody wants to be that what we associate anger with violence, right? So nobody wants to bring this what feels like negative force into the world. And also as kids, we often not taught how to deal with anger. So a lot of times when we express anger as kids, we kind of shamed and rejected. When we have a tantrum, a 2-year-old, my son is 2.5, and he's in this beautiful stage where he's connecting to this anger and tantrums and no. And it takes a lot of wisdom from the parents to teach kids how to deal with their anger. And the way I see anger is that anger is this beautiful life force energy. It's our aggression. It's our ability to go for what we want. It's basically this energy. And the energy itself is just fire. It's beautiful life force energy that gives you life, gives you energy, enables you to have very good boundaries. Again, to go for after you want, you really need this natural anger and aggression. But what happens that usually early in life we learn like, oh, when I'm angry and I hit somebody, like a kid, right? Like, oh, mom she tells me no, that's not okay. And so I quickly learn that anger is bad. And a lot of times we even grew up around somebody who's angry, and we learn that anger, when it's directed at us, it hurts us pretty badly. And so we also equate to anger is hurt and violence, and it's really painful for us to experience anger directed at us. So for example, if you grew up around somebody who had anger issues and they were angry at you a lot, then you know how painful it is to be on the other side, on the receiving end of anger, and you quickly label in your mind unconsciously that anger is bad, anger is hurt, anger is pain, and so you suppress this energy as well. And then we grow up as adults, and we don't have this access to this vital energy in us, and it basically gets suppressed. It gets suppressed in your body, and you can even, there's a number of things that I'm going to talk about today that you can kind of start thinking whether or not you have any suppressed anger. So a lot of times suppressed anger will manifest in body diseases. And I'm not a doctor, I'm a psychotherapist. So obviously no medical advice here, but it's just from my own experience of watching other people and clients who come to me. Have some. You can kind of quickly identify that whether or not you have any suppressed anger. I personally really learned, like in my experience, I grew up around some anger, and then I knew that I don't want to be like that angry person. I want to be kind. One of my values are really kindness and gentleness, and so I quickly decide in my child consciousness that I'm not going to be angry. And of course, if anger arises and I have this block of like, I don't want to be angry, I want to be kind, I want to be loving. So that's another thing that happens. We quickly associate anger with actually like lack of love. And so obviously what I did, I basically suppressed my anger. And for a long time, I remember I also became a Buddhist very early on. And in Buddhism, there's also, if people misinterpret Buddhism, they also can say, well, Buddhism doesn't encourage anger, and they encourage like peacefulness and this tranquility. And so that's like the opposite of anger. And so I used to say, I'm a Buddhist, I don't get angry. And that's how you probably know that, oh my God, she has a lot of like anger work and anger suppression happening. And I remember when I started studying to be a therapist, that was my kind of line. I was like, nope, I just don't get angry. And I avoided angry people. Like, I remember in dating, if there's a person who exhibited some kind of anger, I was like, no, bye-bye. Like, no anger for me. And it was fine. I didn't know that I had a lot of suppressed anger. I was also very spiritual, and it just didn't, like, this idea of like love and connection and being like a loving, good person just didn't, anger didn't fit in that. Where does like anger has to go in my life, where I am this, loving and peaceful person. And so what happened then, for example, for me, up until I started working with anger, I had a lot of acne and a lot of skin issues, a lot of like rosacea, and I'm just looking at my neck, it's like a little red. So my skin is prone to redness as it is, and it's fine. But also when it was like acne and really like this basically fire coming through my skin, right? And that was like a sign that there's energy of anger inside that's like, it can't go anywhere. So it's kind of trying to break through the skin. And I also had a very, very mean inner critic, like my, what we call in psychology, a part of us that's kind of like criticizes us, had a lot of shame. Shame is another sign of suppressed anger. It's basically like when you suppress that energy of anger, and it needs to go somewhere, right? So it can't go out because you are kind, you created this identity, oh, I'm a kind, loving person, so it can't go outside. I'm not angry at anybody outside, but the energy inside needs to go somewhere. So it turns inward, and it becomes this very critical voice, the self-doubt, the shame, all of that is basically internalized anger going inward. And another thing that happens with people who I also had a lot of stomach issues. That's one of the things that happened with suppressed anger, because it's associated here with the third chakra. If you're familiar with that energy system, but basically it's, I had this stomach pains as a child, and I was in hospitals, and nobody could diagnose me what was wrong. So eventually they just decided to cut out an appendix and send me home, even though there was actually no signs that I needed an appendix to be removed. But I think they just didn't know what to do with me, because I had the stomach pains. Digestion issues, I had heartburns, and basically I later learned that it's all psychosomatic. It was my suppressed anger kind of going inward and burning me inside. But, of course, medical models doesn't always explore those issues. So some of other things I noticed, like autoimmune diseases, can be that the same kind of like suppressed anger attacking the person. Also, what is it like? Yeah, we just talked to my friend who has like migraines and headaches, and that could be another thing. Like you start getting this tension, even like to this day, when I start getting tension in my head, I was like, oh yeah, that's probably some suppressed anger that's built up, this tension inside, because it's basically like this vital force, big energy that's trying to go somewhere. But if you have blocks against being angry, and you just block it, it goes into the body and affects you from inside. Another couple pointers for you to know if you have suppressed anger. So for example, people pleasing is like tail sign. Like if you struggle with boundaries, if you're struggling to say what you want, say in the relationship, if you struggle to say no when you don't want to do something, but you feel like you kind of don't want to offend the other person, and you really afraid of their reaction. So that's a definite sign that you have a lot of suppressed anger. Or say caretaking, like a chronic caretaker will always take care of others, but will be the last on their list to take care of themselves. And every time we take care of somebody else instead of ourselves, we build resentment, whether or not we are aware of it. And then that resentment is also kind of suppressed anger. And so it builds. And then usually there's, again, some disease happening, or we blow up and we become, we just explode. A lot of times you can start noticing your anger when you, it's called misplaced anger. A lot of times people don't feel safe to say that you like anger at your spouse, but you really, it's not allowed, because you also equate anger to break of contact, break of intimacy, break of connection. And so you don't allow your anger to go where it belongs, like say at your spouse, but you suddenly like have road rage. And I remember a funny example of that was that I had like, or you like on the phone with a customer representative or like a phone person, and you just like start like getting really angry at them, or just randomly. And that's because anger is there and it's trying. That's my favorite, like where people like writing those comments on Facebook, and they start like being mean to each other, right? Like that you can tell like there's some anger, they're angry, but they just, it's probably not safe for them to go and actually address the anger where it belongs in real life. And so it kind of comes out in this like what they perceive to be safe with random people on Facebook. So Facebook is a great way to like dump your unprocessed anger on just random stranger, because that's what we do. It wouldn't be like nicer to actually go and address that anger in the root and actually direct it to where it belongs. Usually very close people. A lot of times when adults, they also angry at their partners, but it's not safe, or they're afraid to break the connection, they'll yell at their children, because children is like, very, very easy target for our misplaced anger. So kind of like I see two sides of this. Like some people will be like me, will be like associated with kind and nice person and loving and very spiritual, and that just like doesn't go with this like aggression. The energy of aggression feels really threatening and just not not good in our system. So these people in spirituality are definitely big side of that, sort of bypassing this what feels like dark emotion, but really it's like our vital force. But it kind of feels like it can code in our system as evil. And when I presented, I did a workshop on emotions on a Spirit Fest, which is like a festival my friends put together here in San Francisco Bay Area, and I could tell like everybody in the room had a lot of suppressed anger for that exact reason, because it just doesn't go with our spiritual identity of loving and accepting humans. So that's one side of it, where you could go, again, if you like me, if you say I'm a Buddhist, I don't get angry, that's probably one side of it. And you can quickly diagnose whether or not you have suppressed anger by just, how do you, like the last week, were you able to just get angry and kind of like allow yourself to process that emotion and run that emotion, right? Like move that anger, because it's such a natural vital force. We all have it. And if you like haven't been angry for the last months and just don't associate, like you just associate yourself with this person who doesn't get angry, that's definitely something to explore. So that's kind of one side of the spectrum. And the other side of the spectrum are people who like always angry and always just like, oh, I don't have any problems with anger, but they kind of dumping it all over the place, and they just very like explosive and reactive. And that's the other side. They also not really processing and moving the anger. They're just dumping it all over the place, and that's so they take the energy. So again, like the energy of anger is just energy. It's kind of like fire, right? Fire can be used very constructively to create life and give us warmth, but also fire can be really destructive, and when it's like raging and not contained. So the other side of the spectrum are people who don't know how to contain their anger, and they just explode, dump their anger all over, hurt others with it. And that's, neither of them have a healthy relationship with the anger, and both of them can use some anger work. So let me see if there's definitely, like I said, psychosomatic issues like autoimmune diseases, like acne, in my case, what is it, like your basically digestion and stomach stuff, can be all signs that there could be some unprocessed anger. And then again, people pleasing, not being able to go for what you want, not even knowing what you want, can be something like, and then the whole inner critic thing, right? The inner critic that's constantly at us and so mean, but it's basically just energy of anger that doesn't go, that it cannot go anywhere, and so it goes inward, and that goes for shame or guilt, excessive guilt. And I'm not talking about like there's healthy amount of guilt and I guess shame, like a tiny bit of it can be like, well, I did something that was bad, and I feel like remorse, we would say, and sort of like a healthy amount of kind of like guilt where I'm like, yeah, that wasn't good, and the guilt is letting me know that it wasn't okay. But so many people, it's like, have guilt over very healthy things like taking care of ourselves. Like if I go and relax and really take care of myself, suddenly somehow people will say, well, I feel guilty that I'm taking care of myself. I feel selfish. I feel like I'm not allowed. And that's all basically internalized anger directed at you for doing a very healthy thing that's good for you, but it wasn't allowed, and you have some suppressed anger that's turning inward. So guilt is another one that can point to, okay, there's probably some suppressed anger that's worth exploring. Let me see if there's anything else, any other examples I see with how would you know, like if you, I would say it's basically kind of, I don't know, like 90% of population, I think, can use some anger work. Learning how to use this energy for constructive purposes, for protecting life. That's another one, protection. That was huge for me to know that, to notice that sometimes when I'm being bullied or attacked, I like freeze, and I don't always, that used to be my pattern, not so much anymore, thank God. I would go into like collapse or freeze, or I would be unable to say stop or stop something, because my body had this like reaction to being attacked as something really dangerous, like I cannot protect myself. And so anger can be used also for protection, for that's what it needs to be used in a healthy way. We need to have access to anger so we can protect ourselves, and then of course go for what we want, because every time there's like this direct movement of us grabbing something, taking something, saying we deserve, saying we like deserve this, we want this, I'm going for what we want, that's the energy of we can say aggression, not aggressiveness. Aggressiveness, I read this post that I really liked about the difference between aggression and aggressiveness, but the aggression can be like this healthy energy, life force, and aggressiveness is when we take that energy and we start hurting other people with us. So, like I said, most people do need this working with anger and learning how to process anger in a good way, in a constructive way, using this energy to protect life, to create what we want for transformation. When we really need to, in psychotherapeutic process, we really need to have access to energy of anger, because that's when we feel like, okay, it's enough. No, and like this fire that helps to transmute our patterns and destroy what's not longer working. So I also did a conversation that's longer conversations in Russian. I'll drop a link here on anger with my colleague, and you can check it out if you speak Russian. And if not, then I'll do more. Hopefully, go deeper into this, depending on maybe questions that I get, and that's just such a nuanced topic, because it definitely, when working with anger, one kind of word of caution, I say that when I say have access to anger, use this energy, I actually definitely don't mean and recommend dumping it on others. So we need to learn how to have access to this energy in your body, learn how to move it, how to access it to create for what you want, to your energy, to protect yourself and others without hurting others. I do believe that when we snap and the anger goes kind of like on to someone, and somebody gets hurt, then we do experience guilt and shame, and that's a healthy guilt and shame, because it's kind of like points us to say that, hey, that wasn't good, what you did was not okay, somebody got hurt. But then the problem is that we start associating anger with hurt, and it's not the anger. The energy is not bad. The energy is just energy, like fire, but what you do with it, that's what you're responsible for. So you're still responsible for any damages that you do with it, and that's so anger can be dangerous in that way. So that's why it's really important for us to learn how to move it and process it correctly and safely. Don't just like, okay, like I have access to anger, so I'm gonna go and be angry at people. No, being angry at people is never okay in my book. Never. That is something I would support. So I still want love and peace in the world, but using the anger for your purposes, that's what I stand for in this work. So I came up with this new product, you can say, with this new offer. And we did one anger intensive last week. And I was just, it's just like, oh my God, I was like, everybody needs it. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that, what I came up with. So basically, it's a process where I help you unblock your anger, have access to this energy, but also teach you how to do it safely so nobody gets hurt. And it's basically a process that helps you, like I said, unblock this energy. And it's in person. So if you're in San Francisco Bay Area, if you're interested, message me, talk to me about it. I'm so excited about this offer. I was like, everybody needs it. I'm offering to my clients. And I basically come to you and we do, last week we did about 5 therapeutic hours, about like 4.5 process. So I would say 4 to 5 hours where I come to you and I teach this to you. And then we meet before to talk about like your goals and explore your relationship with anger, and there's some integration. So if you just don't want to do this process, it's available. It's kind of like a short-term therapeutic process. You can add it on to your existing therapy. And what I realized, so I work with a lot of clients one-on-one. It's, long-term work, 1 hour a week. We meet, kind of like a standard therapy process. And I love it. And also there are limitations to that, because there's only so much you can do, and there's not there's just lacking this like impersonal, more energetic, more deeper somatic component when I can do in online process. So this idea came up, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like amazing. This is amazing. Everybody needs it. And because everybody struggles with anger in some shape or form. So let me see. So that's how the process works. Again, if you're wondering whether or not you have some anger blocks, you can watch this live, and I'm going to talk about what are some signs of that. But basically, when you unblock this energy, what result can you expect and enjoy after when you unblock energy of anger? This was my number one turning point in my own process, where I started working with this, because it's just so transformative, and it's just the quickest way to, like, for example, when you're stuck, you definitely, there's some blocked anger when you're stuck in life, when you're stuck in a situation, when you feel like a victim, when you feel like disempowered. So anger is directly related to empowerment and how to your confidence. So you can expect that when you start working with anger, when you unblock this energy, when you start moving it out of your body, you will have that inner critic. Inner critic is fueled by anger, by this energy, self-doubt, and whether or not you hear those thoughts or you just feel blocked, like you can't move forward, then this energy, when it's moving, that's basically you're removing a big part of your self-suppression. And honestly, that's like the biggest block that we have in our authentic expression and going for what we want is ourselves, is how we stop ourselves. And that's basically suppressed anger. So when you unblock this energy, when you're starting to move this energy out of your body, so then you don't experience so much shame, guilt, fear even. And then you experience that there's much less pressure on you, kind of like internal pressure, and there's more authentic external expression, because it just flows. There's like less of this like self-doubt, all this stuff that we do to ourselves, right? So you can expect that your power will increase after that if you have access to your anger, your confidence, you're able to speak up for what you think is right, you're able to stand up for what you believe, you're able to protect yourself and your family. And it's just like this nice steadiness and firmness that's starting to take root in your being. That's very nice, very nice. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love working with anger so much. It's so amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing and very effective. Let's see what anything else I want to say about this. I can talk about anger a lot, and I probably maybe depending on just questions that I receive about it, and actually, like, what was interesting last week that we did the process with anger. Anger a lot of times will come with fear. So again, could be a lot of fear of anger. So we work with whatever you need in that process, and whatever emotions come up, I help you process them and learn how to move them if you just can't access it, and a lot of people can't. And yeah, I think that's it. I'll drop some links below for you. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Anything you want to know about anger, ask me and I'll do another live. And it's good for now. All right, bye.